السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. Okay, today we're going to move forward in the fiqh class, dealing with that which is يلزم من أفطر لكبر أو مرض. The breaking of the fast for the one who is elderly and sick. إن الله سبحانه وتعالى أوجب صوم رمضان على المسلمين. Sit it on the thing. If you don't find, okay. نعم ذوي الأعذار في حق غير ذوي الأعذار. وقضاء في حق ذوي الأعذار الذين يستطيعون القضاء في أيام أخرى. وهناك صنف ثالث لا يستطيعون الصيام أداء ولا قضاء كالكبير كالكبير الحرم والمريض الذي لا يرضى برؤه. فهذا الصنف قد خفف الله عنه فأوجب عليه بدل الصيام إطعام مسكين عن كل يوم نصف صاع من الطعام. Now, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed the obligation of fasting Ramadan on all of the Muslims. And it is to be performed, when there is no legal excuse. Yet, those days of fasting that are not fasted, for the days that are not fasted on, they have to be made up by other days or on other days for those who have legal excuses. And there's a third type here, namely those who can neither perform fasting nor make up for it, such as those advanced in years and those who are hopelessly sick, terminally ill. With regard to such persons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieves them from fasting, enjoining them to feed a poor person for each unperformed fasting day instead of actually fasting. They are to provide a half of a sa' of food for each day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden any soul beyond that which it can bear or beyond its capacity. وقال تعالى وعمل الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. Now, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and upon those who are able to fast, but with hardship, a ransom or some sort of substitute, and that is feeding a poor person for each day that he or she missed. Now, قال ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما هي للكبير الذي لا يستطيع الصوم. رواه البخاري. And Ibn Abbas رضي الله تعالى عنهما, he said that this is for the elderly who cannot fast. The elderly person, the person who's reached old age and who's not able to fast. والمريض الذي لا يرجى برعه من مرضه في حكم الكبير فيطعم عن كل يوم مسكينا. Now, and as for the person who is terminally ill or hopelessly sick, the ruling will be the same as that which is applied in the case of aged people or older, elderly people, meaning they are to feed one poor person for each unperformed day of fasting. Among those who break their fasting due to a legal excuse are the musafir, the murid, the traveler, the one who is sick, the traveler, the one who is sick, whose recovery is expected, the one who is sick but not expected to not recover, the pregnant or breastfeeding, the women who are pregnant and breastfeeding, whose fasting might harm them or their babies, and menstruating women or women in a state of postnatal bleeding. It is obligatory upon them in the aforesaid cases to make up for the unperformed fasting days by actually fasting. That is to say that whatever days that they miss, they have to make it up by actually fasting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مُرِيدًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. And as for those who are sick or on a journey, then they should be made up these days in days to come. In days to come, meaning an equivalent amount of days. And on the other hand, breaking the fast is an act of sunnah for an extremely sick person for whom fasting may cause harm, or a traveler covering a distance that necessitates the shortening of the prayer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says what means, and whoever is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of other days. Namely, let him break his fast and make up for the days he did not fast later. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Allah intends ease and does not intend for you difficulty or hardship. Now, يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. Allah wants ease for you, and He doesn't want difficulty for you. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما خير بين أمرين إلا اختار أيسرهما. وفي الصحيحين ليس من البر الصيام في السفر. And the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, if he had to choose between two permissible things, he would always choose the easiest of the two. And then the two compilations or the two sahihs, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامُ فِي السَّفَرِ. And it's not from righteousness. It is not from righteousness to fast on a journey. It is not from righteousness to fast on a journey. Meaning that a person shouldn't think that this is something special that makes him better than the one who doesn't. Because fasting on a journey is not something that one has to do. Rather, he should break his fast, or he definitely has the option to break his fast when he's traveling, because traveling is a piece of punishment. Consequently, if the one on a journey or the one who is ill observes fasting with difficulty, their fasting will be valid, yet detestable. It will be valid, but detestable. So a person will be rewarded. His fasting will count. He doesn't have to make those days up, nor is he blameworthy, but it's something that's disliked. As for the menstruating women, or women in a state of postnatal bleeding, they are prohibited to perform fasting. And if they do, it is deemed invalid. Pregnant and breastfeeding women, however, have to make up for the fasting days that they have missed on other days. They have to make up for the fasting they have missed on other days. So if a woman is pregnant or breastfeeding, then she actually has to fast because of the fact that she has the ability to fast. Likewise, women who break their fast due to fear for their children are to feed a poor person for each unperformed day of fasting. To feed a poor person for each day that they didn't fast. And this, Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, الأسباب الفطر أربع. No, afwan. Before he said this, he said that too, but before he said this, he said, أفتى ابن عباس وغيره من الصحابة في الحامل والمرضع إذا خافتا على ولديهما أن تفطرا وتطعما عن كل يوم مسكينا إقامة للإطعام مقام الصيام، يعني أداء مع وجوب القضاء عليهما. Now, so Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that Ibn Abbas and other companions, they gave a fatwa. They gave a religious verdict concerning breaking the fast by pregnant and breastfeeding women who fear harm for their children. They said they may break their fasting and feed a poor person in expiation for each fasting day they miss, i.e., resorting to feeding as expiation for fasting. In other words, feeding a poor person is expiation when a woman breaks her fast. In either case, yet she is obliged to make up for not performing the fast afterwards. She is obliged to make up for not performing the fast afterwards. In fact, breaking the fast is deemed obligatory for one who needs it to rescue someone in danger, such as a drowning person or the like. So it's something that a person would be, obligated to do if they had to save someone's life. In this case, he mentioned drowning. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَأَسْبَابُ الْفِطْرِ أَرْبَعٌ. The reasons or causes for breaking the fast are four. السفر والمرض والحيض والخوف من حلاك من يخشى عليه الحلاك بالصوم كالمرضع والحامل ومثله مسألة الغريق. Now, so Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said that there are four reasons for breaking the fast: travel, sickness, your monthly cycle, and fearing that harm, the harm that fasting may cause in certain cases, such as the case with pregnant and breastfeeding women. The same applies to breaking the fast to save a drowning person. So a Muslim should make his intention to observe the obligatory fasting from the previous night, such as the fasting of Ramadan, the expiatory fasting, and the fasting for breaking a vow. Intention here means that one should determine to perform the month of Ramadan or to make up for unperformed days of fasting. Also, through intention, one decides whether to perform a fasting for the expiatory fasting or fast because of breaking a vow. And this is because the Prophet ﷺ, he stated in the hadith, he said, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. وعن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها مرفوعا من لم يبيت الصيام قبل طلوع الفجر فلا صيام له فيجب أن ينوي الصوم الواجب في الليل فمن نرى الصوم من النهار كمن أصبح ولم يطعم يطعم شيئا بعد طلوع الفجر ثم نوى الصيام لم يجزئه إلا في التطوع وأما الصوم الواجب فلا ينعقد بنيته من النهار لأن جميع النهار يجب فيه الصوم والنية لا ينعطف على الماضي. نعم. And this is because the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that the correctness of rewards or the deeds depend upon the intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Verily, the actions are but by the intent that every person does get the reward of what he or she has intended. It is also reported on the authority of Aisha in a hadith that is marfu' that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when one does not intend fasting before dawn, his fasting is invalid. Thus, the Muslim must make the intention of performing the obligatory fasting from the night until the dawn, meaning before the fasting commences. So whoever intends fasting in the daytime, such as the one who gets up in the morning, abstains from eating and drinking, and intends fasting, his fasting is insufficient and unacceptable unless it is a supererogatory fasting, not an obligatory one. Yes.
Could you repeat that portion of from the first one?
The Muslim making the intention?
Right, with the part of making the intention.
Yeah, the Muslim making the intention, it is an obligation for this person to have the intention, we'll just say, before the day begins. Right? And like we mentioned before, whether that's at the beginning of Ramadan or every night before the fasting day begins. This person has to have the niyyah. If this person doesn't have the niyyah at this time, then the fasting is invalid. Is invalid. Meaning that a person can't, like in an optional fast, a person can wake up with no intention on fasting, but realize that he hasn't done any of the things that break the fast. No eating, no drinking, no relations. And it becomes afternoon sometime, dhuhr time, late in the morning, whatever the case may be. And he says, SubhanAllah, I didn't do any of these things, today I'm going to fast. He can do this, but not in Ramadan. Because a person has to have the niyyah, and the fasting is all day, it's wajib, it's obligatory, and there's no option in the matter.
What is the cutoff with the other?
There's no cutoff. There's no cutoff. A person hasn't done this all day, hasn't eaten or hasn't drank or eaten anything, then this person can fast whenever they so desire.
I mean, that's good because a lot of times, like I do the intermittent fasting, and I eat like almost 3:30, 4 o'clock before I eat. Does mom just go ahead and fast?
See, that's a little different because you got an intention for something. Your intention is a fasting that's not shari'. It's not a shari'. It's not a legislated fast. You can combine between the two, but if you did an intermittent fast for another reason, then you had a niyyah. You had a niyyah. You had an intention. Your intention was to fast for something other than Allah. What?
I'm saying if I make it a habit that I don't eat after a certain time, but I never, now that I know that if it's after time come up, I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and fast the rest of the day.
See, you planning to be, don't take this the wrong way, but you planning to be deceptive. That's like a plan. Right now, when you seeing the hukum, now you should be preparing yourself for when that time comes. You know what I mean? You planning to play a little bit. When in reality, if you plan on fasting and you have an intention for something other, like we mentioned with wudu. If a person on a hot day, oh, it's hot, sun, working, whatever the case may be, and a person wants to make wudu in order to cool off, it won't be sufficient for salah. A person can say, well, I know I be working in that field all day. I be in the backyard. I'm a landscaper. You know what I mean? Or I'm an old lady with a garden in the back, right? And I'm working hard, and they go make wudu, right? Personal trainer, construction work, whatever the case may be. They say, I do this to cool off, but since I'm already doing it, I might as well, every time I do that, I might as well just pray. Then they might as well just make the intention for worship as opposed to doing something unknowingly, okay, right? You didn't know, you only held accountable for that what you know. But once you know, you have to correct that. Because إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Verily the actions are but by the intention. So a person can make the intention because you know you're going to be fasting anyway. And you can also, the beauty of that is, let's say, which is intermittent fasting. You make the intention to fast. That includes every other thing in there, right? Just like if you make the intention for worship when you make wudu. That includes every other thing in there. You cooling off in the process. But your intention was worship. So if you want to fast, it's intermittent fasting. Make the intention to fast. But the beauty of this, on the opposite, the reverse to this is that if you get up in Asr time and you decide, phew, I don't want to fast no more. I need to drink something or eat something. You can do that, and there's no blame on you.
Only for the no fasting. It can't be I'm making up days for Ramadan.
No, that's different. Because if you're making up days for Ramadan, then this has become an obligatory fast. It's become an obligatory fast. Now, if for whatever reason you can't, I mean, it's between you and your Lord, because you still have a window. But if a person is intending to fast, they should continue to fast. But not because of laziness or because they didn't put themselves in a situation where they even exhausted themselves, then that's different. A person should stick to his or her guns, and if you intend something, then do what it is that you intended. Yeah.
Good stuff. I said good stuff.
Okay. Obligatory fasting must be intended beforehand, not during the daytime. The whole daytime is included in the time of fasting, and intention cannot refer to something in the past. On the other hand, it is permissible for a Muslim to intend performing supererogatory fasting in the daytime. For Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to me and said, do you have anything to eat? Is there anything here to eat? Do we have any food? She replied, no. Thereupon he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, then I will observe fasting today. Now, and another benefit that we can extract from this, man, is the humility of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This man could have been anything he wanted to be, right? He could have had all the power and the dominion. He had the power and the dominion, yet he didn't use it to amass wealth. He didn't use it to oppress the people and to raise himself up in status. That he used to go without eating, not because, necessarily he wanted to or because he could, but because this is the humble way that he lived. He went to his wife's house, asked her, was there something to eat? She said no. He said, so I'm fasting. She didn't attack him and accuse him of being a bum or anything like that. Nor did he, or did she, press him about what you could be doing in these streets. You know what I mean? I'm over here starving, and it's all this money you can get. You know what I mean? So we can take a lesson from that. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that we shouldn't be people who try to have food and stuff like that, but we're talking about humility. That even if you have something, that it shouldn't make you arrogant, right? We're talking about the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who not only had nabuwah, he wasn't only just a prophet and a messenger, the best of all the prophets and messengers, the last and final messenger of Allah with the last risalah, but he was a man who could have had the muluk. He could have had the kingdom and the dominion. They offered it to him. He could have taken it. He was the leader of the world at that time. You know what I mean? In reality. So humility is very important. And we shouldn't be extravagant. And in most cases, we should only have what we need. How many people have food on the shelves that you got to look at the date before you eat it? Right? How many of us throwing away bread because it's past the date, or canned goods? Or we have fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator or on the counter that have become soft and what they call it, morbid, or whatever the case may be, right? Wasteful. And Allah doesn't like those who are wasteful. Now, so this shows that the Prophet ﷺ was not fasting then, as he asked for food. So he didn't have the intention to fast. He asked for food, right? But there was nothing to eat. Thus, the aforesaid hadith involves a proof of the permissibility of delaying the intention of fasting only in the case of supererogatory fasting. However, there is a condition on the validity of the supererogatory fasting intended during the daytime. None of the things nullifying fasting should have occurred before the moment of intending the supererogatory fasting, such as eating, drinking, and the like. In other words, if one has done any of these things that nullify fasting before intended supererogatory fasting during the daytime, one's fasting is indisputably invalid. Now, got a little time. How much? We got a little time. Any more questions? We have any questions online, or we have any questions anywhere other than here, present? Pardon me? Right, sit down.
I just want to know, are you reading from this book?
Yes.
And what page are you on now?
I don't know if your page is going to be the same as mine, but you can go to the table of contents and look at and you want to bring it to me, I can find it for you. There was something else I wanted to go over. I don't know how long the chapter is. Let me see.
It has chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The fasting. That's
Okay, you're going to go to the last one where it says illness or old age.
Are you taking questions?
Huh?
Are you taking questions?
Yeah, you got questions? Okay.
No, I've asked it so many times, but, so when you were making up the fast, could you make your intentions to fast, like, on, like, for instance, after, Ramadan, when we get into, the law?
When you get into what? Shawwal? Huh. You said Shawwal. It's I mean, if you want to keep saying Shawwal, say Shawwal. Shawwal.
Shawwal.
No.
So is the shut on the Y and the Aleph?
No shed on the Aleph. Shed on the Wow.
The wow, but is not a long Aleph like that?
It's just an Aleph. Not a long Aleph, just an Aleph. Yeah. Because if it was a long Aleph, it would be with a mud. Yeah.
So can you make your intentions to, or like the day of Arafat? Your intentions is to make up for Ramadan.
No.
Also fast
No.
on those days.
No. You can't combine obligatory fasting with optional fasting with the same niyyah. Yeah, you can't combine obligatory fast with optional fasting. And I'm sure you may find some people who may differ on this, but the difference is that you have a bigger window, right? For Ramadan, to make a Ramadan, you have a whole year. Whereas these specific days, you have that moment, that time. That time is a short window, it's going to elapse, right? So why risk or gamble having your fasting not accepted, right? Trying to sneak in, you know what I mean? When you can, make it separate and guarantee that it's been accepted.
So you don't have to do your fard before the sunnah.
Not in this case, because once again, you have a big window. Some people say you do. There's some scholars who have ruled that Like, for example, if a person wants to make the 6 days in Shawwal, that they have to complete whatever they missed from Ramadan before they do that. Yumkin. It's possible. It's possible, but, and then there are others who, lean towards the permissibility of delaying it because the asl is that you can delay it. Whereas those other fasting, the 6 days in Shawwal, for example, they're limited, they're restricted, right? And a person may not have the ability to. And then we look at other things too, like, for example, like you say, fasting Arafah, the day of Arafah and day of Ashura and stuff like that. Then same thing, right? If a person has so many days left in Ramadan, but this day so happens to come up, right? They don't necessarily have to make the day of Ramadan up, but they can pray this fastest day and then still. Because the flip side would be that if this day passes, you can't make that day up.
Right.
It's just gone, right? And combining an obligation with the, I don't see the permissibility in that, right? It's like a person coming to pray Salatul Maghrib, to pray obligatory Salat, but he's actually intending to pray a Sunnah. But he's going to throw them in there together and say he combined it. He done made a super Salat. The Sunnahs and the all-in-one Salat.
Well, I think that would be more relief for people that, because of course I've always thought that you had to make the fard, and it's like, well, we can never take advantage of the 6 days in Shawwal.
No, you can't. Alhamdulillah. Remember, say Allah wants for you ease and not for you difficulty. And once again, a person can. We don't say can't, because all a person has to do is push themselves. Because even if a person feels, because there are people who do that. There's just people who still have that opinion. So they make up whatever they miss, and they fast those 6 days. Yeah. So at the most, a woman may miss a week of fasting, 7 days. So you're really just adding 13 days out of that month. Some people have the ability to do it. Some people don't. Then it also depends also what time of year it is. That can have a big effect on it too, because sometimes we fast in the dead of winter, where the sun is setting at 5 o'clock or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's easier, right? It's cold. It's not, you're not working hard. You're not working outdoors really. You're not being, affected by heat. The days are short, the nights are long. But a person has to do whatever they see fit and see what's, best. But I'm of the opinion that, I used to be of that opinion, but I guess that was, for me, because I didn't really ever miss days in Ramadan. And if I did, it was maybe 1 or 2 for whatever reason, but I usually never miss days in Ramadan. So if I had a day or 2 to make up, I can make that up and then still make the 6 days in Shawwal, because you can space them out. They don't have to be back to back. And that's another thing. They don't have to be back to back. So a person can actually fast. If you got 4 weeks in this month, you can fast a day a week and maybe add an extra day for each week. You know what I mean? We got a few minutes. What I'm gonna do is try to race through. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna stop this recording and start again, and I'm gonna do the chapter dealing with making up for missed days in Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Come right back.